Alright, Tyler Perry fans, but this video is mostly focusing on have and have-nots. Yes, I know it's been well over a month and I still haven't gotten back to my rewatch reviews. Truth be told, I've actually watched about 20 episodes of season 1 and I've taken notes because I figured I might as well, take the process of binging and taking notes at once. That way when it's actually time to do videos, it's a lot easier. And season 1 still holds up. I mean, I made a meme last night, pretty much, what was it, the change my mind meme, something along the lines of not one season of any Tyler Perry BET show, or none of Tyler Perry's BET shows can compete with Haves and Have-Nots season 1. And I posted this on the YouTube community tab, Instagram, Twitter, the Sisters Facebook group, and some other of the Facebook groups. And, aside from maybe a couple of people, everyone agrees. I mean, Haves and Have-Nots season 1 and in season 2 and a little bit of 3, that, in my opinion, was, peak Tyler Perry writing. Some people threw in If Loving You Was Wrong season 1. Honestly, despite watching season 1, I really didn't get into the show until like season 3-ish. So I think for me personally, the Haves and the Have-Nots success was both a blessing and a curse. Hear me out. Because last night, last night as well as yesterday was Monday afternoon, I had some, interesting discussions with other fans of Tyler Perry shows. And I think because of the lack of hit Tyler Perry shows right now, yes, I know there's House of Pain and Assisted Living, but let's be real, those two shows are kind of hanging on by a thread right now. Without Sisters or The Oval around, we just had time. I feel like I've had time to really process, step back from doing like 15 videos a day, analyze the shows, as well as, work on other things. That way I'm not, doing Tyler Perry stuff 24/7. Plus Doctor Strange 2 just came out, so I've been binging a lot of theory videos on that. I just thought about how the haves and the have-nots in those later seasons, like the last 3 seasons or so, we can all agree they weren't that great. Especially, how many seasons was it? 8? Like, season 7 and 8 were the worst. Season 6 was I don't know. I know the show started to falter bad during like season 5. I forgot what season it was, where we got like 40 something episodes in a year. I know at that point I'm like, okay, yeah, we're doing a bit too much. But no, season 6 was actually okay. Yeah, season 7 and 8 were the bad ones. It's crazy because at that point, ratings started to dip. Now, they were still, each episode was still getting over 1 million views a week. But yeah, those last 2 seasons just dragged. I mean, from the endless amount of new characters who added nothing to the plot, to the fact that the show was originally supposed to end in season 7, but then got extended. I think that if you look at that, and the fact that the haves and the have-nots still did amazing in terms of ratings, I feel like that was possibly the beginning of the end. Not in terms of the haves and the have-nots, but in terms of Tyler Perry quality writing. Because one of the most, I guess you could say, repetitive comments or responses I got to the Change My Mind meme about Haves and Have-Nots season 1 is the fact that, yeah, those first couple seasons of the Haves and the Have-Nots, that's what makes a lot of present day Tyler Perry projects so polarizing. It's the fact that we know he's more than capable of writing grade A material, but for the past, since like maybe 2018, 2019, we've been getting lackluster projects, especially when it comes to the Viacom era. It's, Viacom allowed Tyler Perry to have way more range and just essentially a bigger playground to spread out the toys, because on OWN, he was only limited to, maybe 2 or 3 shows at a time. I mean, I know he had TLC, which was under the Discovery / OWN umbrella, where you had Too Close to Home. And then you had Love Thy Neighbor when he first started out on the OWN network. Then the Pains he got thrown in, Have and Have Nots, and Loving You Is Wrong. But BET, well, Viacom just had so many platforms where Nickelodeon, BET, BET Plus, and, you know, he's working on other streaming platforms as well. But the thing about it is, I think a lot of fans agree that we would much rather have one or two solidly written shows with great writing, good development, than to have 15 shows that are mediocre. But the one thing I will say about the Viacom era that the OWN era didn't have, and to an extent even TBS, because, you know, there are like 3 different eras of Tyler Perry in terms of television. Of course, you know, it started out with plays and movies and TV, but I want to focus solely on television right now. You know, he started out on technically WB, but the House of Pain series was short-lived there. Then he went to TBS. You got the TBS era where he had about 3 or 4 shows, the OWN era where he had about 4 to 5 shows, and now you got the Viacom era where he's probably like at 10 by now, or okay. Oval, Sisters, Ruthless, Bruh, Zatima Is Coming, that's 5. House of Pain reboot, Assisted Living, Young Dylan. Okay, that's 8 off the top of my head, and he might have other projects we have yet to see, so just keep that in mind. But the thing about it is, Viacom has such a variety. There is a little bit of something for everybody, you know? Young Dylan for the kids, the Oval for those who need that drama kick because the haves and the have-nots is gone. For the ladies, their Sisters, but let's be honest, their Sisters is like universally beloved. Kind of like, you know, when Taylor Swift music first came out, it wasn't just, you know, teenage girls at the concert. They were like grown-ass men in college age, you know, people at the concert singing the song. So, yeah, I feel like Sisters is definitely the show that a lot of people can communicate on because there are different perspectives on the relationship dramas. For the people who want the dark side of Tyler Perry, there's Ruthless. For the fellas who need that counterpart to Sisters, there's Bruh. And, you know, and the list goes on. But I do think that because Tyler Perry at the time was really only focused on haves and have-nots, you know, Love Thy Neighbor, and what was the other show? It wasn't If Loving You Is Wrong. That didn't come out until Have and Have Not season 2 or 3. I think it was just the House, Have and Have Nots and Love Thy Neighbor, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can tell when Tyler doesn't have a lot of ingredients in the kitchen because he's not making 5 meals at once. He's able to make 2 solid shows. Well, even though Love Thy Neighbor, I think season 1 was the best. After that, I kind of fell off it. But I do feel like because the haves and have-nots was still successful ratings-wise, even when the later seasons came out and the show wasn't as good, I think that kind of translated to, well, what's the point of putting out grade A material when the ratings for mediocre or less than stellar content is still going to number 1? As a consumer, that's, you know, a tough pill to swallow. But somebody, you know, in the business world, it makes sense. I mean, why spend more money? Why spend more time writing quality material, making sure storylines make sense, are fine-tuned, characters are developing, when if I just throw something together, and that's not to say hard work does not go into Tyler Perry projects. I'm not saying that at all. It's just that if something isn't, you know, grade A material, but it's still hitting number 1 in the ratings, obviously somebody's watching it. And as a result, hey, there you go. So it's pretty much like me. Let's say, for example, if I didn't do as in-depth analytical breakdowns of these shows like I did. Let's just say I just got up here and I spoke for maybe 10 minutes max on each video, just kind of giving a play-by-play of the episode. Yeah, this episode, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't have that same level of intrigue as my 6,500 other videos. But the video had like 50,000 views. Like, let's say I just kept uploading videos with No thought. The views were way bigger than my usual amount of views per videos. I got a lot of ad revenue. I was able to buy a house, pay all student loans, and hit a million, like 500,000 subscribers in a couple of months. Why go back to the formula, which took me way more time, from watching every episode carefully, writing notes on everything? Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It would be tempting, but would I be fulfilled? Not necessarily. But then on the flip side, it's like, look, I've been grinding on this YouTube thing for, over half a decade now. And, I'm finally good on the algorithm. A lot more views, a lot more subscribers. What does it matter that the videos I half-assed are doing way better than the ones I busted my behind to do? So part of me understands that business model. It's like, what's the saying? Work smarter, not harder. But at the same time, and I said this maybe around the time that Sisters or The Oval was maybe halfway through their first seasons. And then, of course, when House of Pain Season 9 came out, Assisted Living Season 1 came out. I don't feel that any of these shows have the longevity of the TBS House of Pain or Have and Have Nots. Keep in mind, have and have nots, say what you will. Anytime somebody talks about the haves and the have nots, or when somebody recommends, hey, Jeremy, where should I start? Or, let's talk about the show. More often than not, every conversation I have with someone, seasons 1 and 2 come up in conversation. Like if I tell somebody, look, start from the beginning. Well, it's almost 200 episodes. It's hella good at the beginning. Then as the show goes on, as almost any other long-running series, it starts to fizzle out. But the ratings are still high. And this isn't an attack on Tyler Perry. It's just the fact that how many other franchises and, television shows and whatnot have kind of overstayed their welcome on the big screen, on television, in video games, and, Barnes & Noble book series and whatnot. But because they still get numbers, you can't help but revive them. Let's do a reboot. Let's do a sequel. Let's do a season 10 or something along those lines. But the haves and the have-nots, the show had to double check the dates. I thought that May 13th was the 9th anniversary. Turns out, no, it's actually the 28th of May, 2013. Yeah, 2013, not the 13th, being the 9th anniversary of the show. And yeah, that was lightning in a bottle. Could Tyler write another series or a continuation of the haves and have-nots on the same caliber or quality? I think it's possible. Because we know the man is capable of it. Given that we do know in recent times a lot of the shows that he currently has in development or some of the shows currently on the air are being handed over to other writers and directors. So it's quite possible that once Mr. Perry has a little less on his plate and he's able to focus on other things, we might be seeing grade A quality material from him yet again. But maybe it won't be Haves and Have-Nots 2.0, but it'll be another show of the same kind of genre. And that's another thing I want to point out. Aside from the writing quality, some people, well, honestly, I'm surprised no one has tried to counter my statement or opinion by saying, well, Jeremy, sure, the Haves and the Have-Nots Season 1 was great, but is it fair to compare the Haves and the Have-Nots to the Viacom shows? Because that show stands out being a different genre than a Sisters or, let's say, something along the lines of House of Pain. Very true. That's a dramedy and a sitcom versus a nighttime soap. But the same can kind of be said of The Oval. It's just that The Oval had a lot of potential, but I do feel like it's been squandered away. That's not to say Season 4 might not turn things around, but at the same time, it pales in comparison. Sure, any other project post Haves and Have-Nots, specifically The Oval or any show of a similar genre, would be compared to it. It's 2022 and there are still people saying that the show The Oval should have just been a spinoff of Candace and Charles in the White House. And given The Oval we've gotten so far, especially Season 3, I think that would have been a better route, because think of it this way. It would have added more people to the list of, you know what, I do need to watch the Haves and the Have-Nots so I can understand who the hell Candace Young is. So, Hey, just saying. But overall, to round things out for the video, I do feel like Tyler Perry was at his peak during those early years on OWN, and now it's kind of like it's a more relaxed thing. It's just like, and I feel like I've used this example. I've talked about this subject a lot over the years in regards to how the quality of Tyler Perry projects don't have that same level of polish that his earlier stuff did, whereas it's more about quantity over quality. And I don't think that a lot of these shows have the longevity of being talked about with reverence and, you know, good memories over the next 10, maybe even 5 years, you know. But I think Sisters will, but really that's mainly Zatima stuff. Seriously, who's going to talk about the Oval in 2027? I'm just saying. I mean, even now, there are people who want it back, but a majority of the people I see from my timeline, my news feed, my social media, a lot of people say they want it back just to have something to watch. Not a lot of people give solid reasons why. Like, I need to find out if Barry gets his child back. I need to know if Jason is really dead. The only thing that people really talk about is probably the two things in the episode. The cliffhanger at the end with Hunter appearing at Nancy's house, and at the beginning of the episode, like, okay, what happened between Priscilla and Grip? What went down there? That's it. You know, there's really... And where's Gail? But that's been like, what, 2 seasons now she's been gone. But with Sisters, there's a lot to talk about. Okay, I need to see, is Karen going to the doctor? You know, who the baby daddy? And that's really about it. And that leads into Zatima being a spinoff. So, yeah, not a lot of these Tyler Perry current projects have that longevity or shelf life. So that's just my opinion. So let me know your thoughts. Do you feel like the haves and the have-nots was kind of the beginning of the end of Tyler Perry's quality? Do you feel like the success of that show, and even when it got really bad, the ratings were still up? Do you think that set the standard of Tyler Perry projects from then on? It's like, as long as I make something halfway decent and ratings are still good, it doesn't really matter, because people may drag the show, people may complain, but if the numbers are still there, who cares? So let's talk about it more in the comment section below. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.